Yeah, 5 minutes with the other friend, they're out lunch. At least it's our. Yeah, she goes, she's lived in Cloverdale. Yeah, so much great.
Yeah, so I haven't had a busy day at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing on.
Yeah, is there an extra agenda that I can?
Oh,
You can grab. No, there's a different. Maybe I have it on screen. I just like paper. There we go. Hi. There's the extra agenda. I think we can have to.
What's that? Is that Frank? Yeah, this is Frank.
We don't need to get very far. I don't have my glasses with me. I'm like, you know, that's the last. Yeah.
Yeah. He's very good at that.
I'm Sarah.
Oh, I am Kevin.
Nice to meet you.
I know you were talking to my coworker, Raphael.
Yeah, and then he just sent me a message, he was like, yeah, they changed it, I'm old.
Let's see. The sound effects are free today. Oh, I suppose we should probably get started. Here we go. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order today, October 17th, 1:30. Planning and Sustainability Subcommittee meeting. And we have the roll call. Chair Bagby is here. Who else is with us?
Park Superintendent Hector.
Vice Mayor.
I'm here.
Yeah, and
Kevin Thompson, same program.
And City Manager Kelly is zooming in. Anybody else? Can we also go ahead and introduce ourselves and
Jade Weymouth, La Familia Sana.
Rob Kozlowski, Cloverdale resident.
And Sarah Hagan, I see optical.
How do you want, what's the view we want here? Speaker?
You end up following my view.
Which view do I want?
you don't want that one.
You want speaker.
Gallery?
There you go.
Okay, that one's good.
There we go. All right, we'll move on to public comments. The public may speak on items on not listed on the agenda at this time. City Clerk, do we have anyone in?
Yeah, so Chair, right now, we're only taking comments in person, so only if there's public comments in the conference room.
All right, well then remember the public like speak on an item not on today's agenda?
Yeah, just quickly, I would actually on smart, the last couple of questions that, you know.
On smart, well, it's not under the jurisdiction of this committee.
But you can still ask me questions.
You can ask a question, but it's not under the jurisdiction of this committee. It's planning.
Which committee is
This
it?
is planning and sustainability.
So we don't plan on sustainability for transportation.
But it's not under our jurisdiction.
No, it's okay. Whose jurisdiction is it?
Probably the smart words.
Okay, were you on the smart board?
And I can't make any decision that I would speak for them.
Okay,
Why don't you share with us? Rob?
yeah, no,
Well,
I just,
actually, Mr. Vice Mayor, I am the chair of this meeting, and one of the reasons that we are not accepting public comments via Zoom any longer is that there have been issues at other council, at our own council meetings and throughout the community. And one of the causes of those problems is when bodies are hearing things that are not on their agendas and that are not under their jurisdiction. So it is important for all council members across Sonoma County and probably across the country that we need to hone in and conduct the city's business and hear comments that are on the jurisdiction of the body at the time.
Well, I'm going to disagree. I'm in agreement with you because I think when a citizen comes in front of
Mr. Vice Mayor.
any political meeting of the city of Cloverdale, they should say what they have to say regardless of who it's about.
Mr. Vice Mayor,
You've
that
said,
is not in accordance.
you've said enough.
That is,
Let's go on.
Mr. Vice Mayor, that is not in accordance with
Go on.
Robert's
with the
rules.
meeting.
You took an oath of office.
So did you.
I took an oath of office to conduct the business of the people of Cloverdale and to follow our protocols.
Zip it up. Rob.
one
You
of
can't say
those-
anything.
One of those protocols is Robert's Rules of Order and how we conduct meetings. So that's why I'm being very specific, because we have had so much disruption, so much racism, so many terrible comments. It's why
I want to talk about smart.
Mr. Vice Mayor,
Just
Mr.
go
Vice
on.
Mayor,
Just go on, don't lecture me. Don't explain me, just go on with the meeting.
Mr. Vice Mayor, conduct yourself in accordance
Stop
with
lecturing.
your office.
Stop lecturing. Let's go.
You know what? We're adjourned.
Good.
No, we're not adjourned. We're on recess. Please turn off the camera. Michael, we're gonna break. The fact is that you understand. Okay, go ahead and let's start up the meeting again. I'm gonna call the meeting back into order.
And I'm gonna seek legal guidance on this issue, in terms of what can and can't be said during public comments.
You know what, I think that our guidelines and Robert's rules are very clear on this message, but if you would like to provide a reorientation to the most experienced council member in Cloverdale, I think that's a great idea. The fact is that other bodies in this county have been inundated. And part of the reason that these meetings can't be held in a civil manner is that we have gotten into a very bad habit of addressing things that are not within our jurisdiction of either a subcommittee or a council. We have to stay focused on the business of the people. That's why we were voted for, and we have a serious responsibility. Vice Mayor, it wants to play by his own rules. He can do it on his own time. But in these meetings, when I'm sharing these meetings, we are going to stay on the topic and the jurisdiction that and the authority that we have in a subcommittee meeting. There is, if you want to comment on SMART, you're welcome to, but I wanted to just lay the ground rules to be very, very specific. So, and also so that you can be a more effective lobbyist. If you want to talk,
I'm not a lobbyist.
No, but
I'm
you're-
resident of Cloverdale.
you're a
I'm
council-
being taxed, and
Sure.
I just wanted to bring up.
but you're not being taxed by the city of Cloverdale for SMART. That is a voter initiative that covers Sonoma County and Marin County, and there's a governing board that manages that tax. And I wanted you to understand that. Okay, and that's what I was trying to do before the vice mayor decided to make up his own meeting rules.
Well, the reason I wanted to talk about it is I've sent you a number of emails, questions related to SMART as you're representing on that board. So, and those have gone unanswered for the last year and a half. So
They-
I thought I would just ask those questions again.
They have not, they have been addressed at the SMART board. I have forwarded them to staff for them to be addressed publicly. I'm sorry that there was a misunderstanding, but that's how representative government actually works. That's actually not a lecture. I was trying to have a conversation. And you guys, I don't agree with your characterization, but I do agree.
That's how I take it.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So would you like to go ahead and make, okay, thank you. But do you understand, am I being clear that we are here to cover items on the agenda and items that are not on the agenda that are under the jurisdiction of this subcommittee? Does that make sense?
So,
And that's actually, we do take an oath to say that we are going to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States, the laws of the state of California, and the laws of Cloverdale. One of the things that we took an oath to protect and defend and do is to conduct meetings according to Robert's rules and to do it professionally, to cover things that are actually the business of this subcommittee. And I would think that as somebody who is a community activist and someone who sends emails and comments regularly, you would be interested in being able to effectively lobby your elected officials. Does that make sense?
it doesn't make sense that in a public forum where you invite the public to attend.
It is a public forum,
attends,
and it is,
they can't speak on what they would like to
that is true.
relate to planning and sustainability.
Okay,
Because at one of the meetings, we also talked about the Alexander Valley community, and it was part of where we would get public transit, the one over on Asti Road.
So
That went
Alexander
through,
Valley
it's been built, right?
yes.
And that's been, part of the reason was it's gonna be serviced by the smart train at some point.
It is in the transit-oriented development.
Yes.
Yes.
So we talked about that, other kinds of meetings like this, so.
That's true.
Why that's inappropriate to bring up smart at this meeting,
It is.
which is planning and sustainability, just escapes any doubt
So
to my-
are your comments related to the planning process for the transit-oriented development and
Related
Aspen Road?
related to smart.
Certainly,
But
I
I
bet-
will,
but you understand that decisions regarding SMART are not made here. It's not under the jurisdiction of the subcommittee by any means. Okay.
what I also understand is that you appear to be cutting off comment. So
Yes.
consider me cut off, and I will discuss it at this point.
I am cutting off comment because I am keeping the conversation on items that are within the jurisdiction of this body. And my questions initially, before I was unbelievably interrupted by the vice mayor, who's been doing this for a long time, was to get to the meat of it, to make sure it was in the jurisdiction of this body. That's my responsibility.
But I never got to the point to even
Because
discuss it.
I think I was interrupted and being told to tell you, I was being interrupted and told to let you say whatever you wanted to, regardless of whether or not it was within the jurisdiction of this body. No, but he did. He did.
I'm responsible for my own.
Yes, you are, but now you have a better understanding of it, so I would be happy to hear your comments as they relate to planning and sustainability and the TOD.
I'll withdraw since I've been told.
All right, well, I'm glad, no, that you were not told that you can't speak. You were not told that you can't speak. You were told what the parameters are of comments in this body.
But you asserted what the parameters were, not knowing what I was gonna say.
I was asking follow-up questions to make sure you were
I
going
never
to,
got a chance to even start speaking.
well,
So
once,
yes,
you've been invited multiple times. You are invited now.
we'll move on.
That would make me happy. All right, with that, are there any other public comments that are regarding items under the jurisdiction of the Planning and Sustainability Subcommittee meeting that are not on today's agenda, which is why we're here? I'm not seeing any. So we will move on to communications. Have there been any communications?
No communication received.
All right, we will move on to approval of minutes from August 15th. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes? Is there a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve.
City manager? Or assistant city manager?
I'll second.
All right. Motion passes. Minutes are approved. New business.
Chair, can we-
Oh, sorry, we wanted to move up.
F13, since we've got folks
That's
here
right.
to talk about that.
That's right.
It's the absolute bottom one.
Let's
so
go ahead and move.
That's the art program.
Let's move F13 up first so people can get on with their days.
Yes.
All right. All right.
So, this has been an ongoing item here at the Planning and Sustainability Committee. And in the packet is a draft art program. It's just like I said, it's a very, it's a draft, and it's modeled after Windsor's art program to paint the utility boxes. I've also included some language in here about murals, because I know there's interest in painting murals. So this program really lays out, or this plan really lays out a program for the ability to paint the boxes and to do murals, and it lays the steps out where people can apply. They would show some of their previous artwork, and then it has some rules around it, eligibility. You know, some artists must show their previous work. There is a stipend in here, so if the city was willing to do that, this is draft, so I can get some direction today, maybe on some of these key points, I can bring it back, or if you want to bring it on to the council, that's fine. There's an application, and you can see in there, digital images of your previous work. Again, the stipend, the selection process, it lays out, the city reserves the right to refuse any submissions at its sole discretion. The criteria the artist used, the use of space, the articulated theme, the color scheme, the overall impact, creativity. That's kind of some of the criteria that we would use to judge the art, to give it the green light to go ahead. Proposed timeline, and this is really geared towards the utility boxes, but I think we can translate a lot of that into the murals. Of course, there's a legal disclosure in there. It says, artists are required to use a certain type of paint that's good for outside. They ask that they apply an anti-graffiti coating that's supplied by the city. And then, the artist who paints the mural or the utility box would be responsible for the upkeep of that. see here. Safe disposal, there's a little bit about how when they're painting the utility boxes, how they have to leave the sidewalk clear for people to get by. You know, things like that, so basic outline, so really what it is in Windsor, you know, we can model after that, but once a year. They come up with a theme that they want to say whatever it is, history of Sonoma County, history of Windsor. Then they identify the places where they could be painted. And they ask for the artist to submit based on this criteria. It's pretty simple. I mean, it's not really onerous in my view. And then they do have, I think, an arts committee that basically uses the criteria in here and gives the artist to go ahead to do it. So there's some details that we would have to shape to make it more Cloverdale. But I think it's a good start, and I'd like to hear any feedback you have if you want to proceed with this, or if I can button this up and take it to council, or if you want me to bring it back here, button it up and bring it back here. We're here to seek your direction on that. David, I don't know if you had a chance to look at it or if you had anything to add to that, but it's like I said, it's a first crack, and it's pretty simple, but I think it will be helpful, as a lot of people are interested in doing art, at least to give us some structure on how to do that. That's kind of the end of my report.
Anything from city manager?
I think the proposed program that Kevin developed, modeled after Windsor, is, you know, a good starting point for a discussion. You know, ultimately, this would be a new program that would need to go to council for review and adoption. And also, given if there is a funding component, establishment of a budget, we did not include this in our funding for this type of program in our budget, nor did we identify this as part of our project goal. So this would ultimately need to go to council and get their blessing. And my recommendation, if there's interest, would be, I think, with relative to the utility box program, maybe looking at doing a pilot project as an example of what a project might entail.
Yeah, and I think the stipend for Windsor was $500 per artist, and we don't have to necessarily provide that. That I know we didn't budget for it, but I just left it in here as a discussion point. I would like to maybe see if this would work for murals as well, because there is a lot of interest in the murals. And I think it's a process that, again, isn't overly onerous, but it does give us a little bit of a check on what's happening and where it's going to happen, and gives us an opportunity to provide input. So I don't know. I mean, if I can go through some of these that I would like to get a little direction on, if that's okay, or if there's a different direction, let me know. I mean,
Well, let's get questions first, and then
Okay.
public comment if we can. So any questions from members of the subcommittee?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Kevin, just a couple. Would it be confined to the core downtown, Lake to Third, commercial to Main?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, in the Windsor example, they do have about 12 utility boxes. So they did identify all of those. Those were located throughout the whole city. So we could geographically define it. Our two utility boxes, you know, one's down by Ferber and one's right here. Those are the two that we control. So that might be in terms of like a geographic area. If you want to paint both those boxes, we have to think about that.
So are you saying there's only 2 boxes in the city to paint?
There's 2 that we control.
So how would we do the
Well,
other?
we would have, I think we have to reach out to, if there's a Comcast one.
To get approval.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the
Or
Eureka plan has kind of a guideline for city-owned and city access properties, and like boxes and mural sites, and then just guidelines for how the process is conducted for private property, for example, and that might be where we want to go. So we could, do pilots on city-owned property, which are, it's easier to probably to get that approval process, and then we can be that, it can be a community guinea pig or example. And then you have a policy for how artists are paid, how companies might pay for their utility box, pay an artist an upfront fee and then a maintenance fee.
Mhm.
That all is pretty much laid out in that Eureka plan. So maybe we want to kind of streamline the Windsor plan with the existing
Well, I
guidelines
mean,
that exist in Eureka, that kind of thing.
David has a good idea. I mean, we could do a pilot project.
Yeah.
We could do the one downtown, which is the most visible. And follow this process, see how that goes, and then if we like it, maybe extend it to the second box, or maybe we do both boxes pilot right off the bat. But I mean, I think this is pretty well thought out, it's simple, and I think it will give people an opportunity to move forward. I mean, I know we have interests, so.
Well, maybe this is the time to kind of open it up to public comment and see what everybody
I
is
just have
here.
one more
Oh,
question.
sure.
If I
Sure.
could. Thank you. I think the dollar amount is good. Give the artists something to inspire them and to reimburse them for their costs. Also, I'm hoping that we would have some type of final sketch from them, saying this is what I'm looking to do. So we have some so we have a comfort level with what they're putting up there. And I think that was pretty much it for the notes I wrote down. If it's only 2 boxes and one down in Ferber Plaza, and I'm sure we're gonna have to get the Ferbers to okay that as well.
I think it's our box, I just.
Well, just at least to let them know.
Yeah.
We're working on this.
Part of being good citizens, yeah.
So, I'm in favor of moving forward with it. I'd like to see us do more than just those 2. There's a lot of boxes, and if we don't do it, the kids are gonna do it. So.
There is a requirement that they have to submit a rendering of what they're,
Yeah.
Okay.
what they're thinking. If we can, I'd like to maybe talk a little bit about the murals, because I know there's a lot of interest in the murals. Trying to apply something that's in here towards approving murals, so. I mean, this program in Windsor was really geared towards utility boxes. What I did where I could, I sort of put murals language in there as well as a process, so. I don't know if you guys are comfortable with that as just a starting point for us to start looking at the murals that want to come in and having at least some plan in place to have it, to check it and or maybe provide a little bit of money if possible.
Yeah, I'd like to see it move forward, Madam Chair.
Well, we're not quite there yet, so is there any other questions amongst staff? So I'd like to open it up for public comment and get some public input. David, do you have anything at this time? And are there any hands raised in the attendees?
We are not accepting any public comment virtually.
Right, that's right.
For the
That's
meeting.
It's only there.
So as long as they're not in the conference room, I think we're good.
Garrett.
Yeah, and it's good.
It's all right, it's a bad habit, sorry.
No, it's a good habit, but until we get further direction from the attorney, we're gonna stick with that for all of our public meetings.
No, I think that given what's been going on throughout the county with the horrifying public comment, it's too bad that we have to do that. But
Right.
so that's why it's so important to stay on topic. So with that, I'll go ahead and open it up to members of the public who are in the room who would like to comment on this item. So who wants to go first? You had a turn earlier.
You can go ahead and go.
Yeah.
So I started thinking probably about 4 months ago about wanting to do something for the murals. I'm a newer business. I've been here 2.5 years. I've learned a lot about Cloverdale, just being new and trying to figure things out. And as a small business, as a new business, I noticed pretty quickly that we don't have a lot of visitor traffic. So I started trying to think of how we can fix that. One thing that I came up with was the wine walk. So that's trying to bring people from out of town here on a monthly basis, get to know our businesses, get to know our town, have people stay in our hotels here overnight that are coming from the city or coming from Oakland. to try and just encourage more tourists into our area.
Can I ask you, did you plan to coincide with asking tour to bike? Because that was, or was that just a happy accident? I think the wine walk, I think it coincided, or people stayed for both. That's what I kind of had picked up.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Oh, yeah.
I think it was.
No idea.
It was very cool. It was a good time.
So, now that we have that kind of going a little bit and the chamber is running that well, and we have that kind of on a repetitive basis, this is our second annual for that, which is nothing to do with murals. But just trying to bring people in. I came across the thought, again, just kind of seeing things that are online, social media types of things, that murals are really cool. And it's one of those things that draw in younger people. They pull out their cell phone and take a cute little selfie, they post it online, they tag the city, they can tag whatever it is, their friends see it. And that's the easiest way to be able to get word of mouth out there. People aren't gonna say, hey, where did you go this weekend? They're gonna see a picture and then go, oh crap, that's where you went. You went to Cloverdale, and that was really cool. So I wanted to hopefully do murals, and I started reaching out to some businesses. I have no idea what in the world I'm doing. I just have an idea and then I try and figure it out. So I started first reaching out to businesses to see who would be interested. I found a few that are interested and would be totally up and ready. I have one who's like gung ho, just go paint my building, I don't care. He's ready to go. He could do the very first one.
Told you there was pent-up demand.
And then I've been doing some other research just through other art businesses. There's one in particular that I've been following, which is Art Start, and they have a whole website or a whole web page that has a bunch of artists that are listed on there that have all of their contact information. You can send emails to all of them, and that's why they have their information there, so that you can reach out to them, find them. And these are professional artists. You can see what their artwork is. And then I haven't quite figured out yet the financial part of it. I know that being a 501c3, that you can get donations from the public, and we have such a big artistic community that would love to participate in this. And I don't know if that's something that the city would be able to do, if we're able to partner with a 501c3 that can, bring in the donations so that we could pay for this stuff. I think that would be good. It would help to encourage bigger artists or better artists to be able to want to participate. I am hoping that we can get a total of 6 to 8 walls. That was my personal goal. I don't know what your personal goal is.
More than I thought.
You would get to.
We just think get 2 boxes.
Ready to do
Like people aren't gonna come from out of town to look at 2 boxes. They're not gonna come from out of town to look at 2 murals. Like you have to have more for them to look at.
Yeah.
So that's why I was thinking something bigger. And of course, we have a lot of stuff that's downtown, but we don't want to forget about South End. And there's a couple places down there I need to figure out who the owners are, so I can reach out to them as well. If you would allow me on the committee to do so.
Yeah.
To kind of figure that out as well.
Yeah, we probably know who. Yeah, anyone you don't know, we're talking about, so.
No, I just start calling phone numbers. So, yeah, so that's where I am. I do know that, Clay, I forgot his last name, works at the, Arts Alliance. He's also a new art teacher at the high school. I chatted with him a little bit, and he thinks it would be a really cool idea if we could get the high school students that are in his class to be able to do a mural. So he's got the kind of ball rolling on that, and he's keeping an eye on his students. So who might participate because he thinks it's a fabulous idea.
So I think, Kevin, what we need to do is we need to find that Eureka thing and just give it to Sarah, hand it over, because everything that you just described is actually an economic development tool that the city of Eureka developed and is doing. And I actually brought the thumb drive and the binders back like 4 years ago, and then fires and COVID happened, and so this is actually an item that's been standing with us for several months now. And the really cool thing about the Eureka program is that it integrates the high school, the grade school kids, and then they also bring in professional artists or provide a venue for their resident artists and all of their community programs. So it's really what you're describing is actually we already have like a binder on it, and we're trying to. and, you know, could look at the plan that Windsor has and kind of right size it maybe for Cloverdale, so.
Yeah, I'll send that. to you.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'd love to talk about that a little bit more. And I
It's
can
good,
give you
it's
the
good, it's
contact
good reading,
information.
you'll love it, it's.
I can give you the contact information, and if you
Yeah.
wanted to have a conversation on a totally separate committee, I'm down. If
Yeah.
you'll allow me to be on it.
Well, and actually, the economic development staff from Eureka came a couple of weeks ago and gave us a presentation on this, so. We can put you kind of, I'm wondering if they even kind of consult with that website that we were talking about, or work with that group at all at this point, because and it may not have even existed when they started their program, you know, but one of the things that they did at that meeting was they said, please take this and do it in your city, because we want the tourists in our region to know it's not just Eureka, it's Fortuna, it's Ferndale, it's Cloverdale. We want there to be a mural and a public art route. And so that we're recognized, because that's the whole goal. So it really, what you're saying really dovetails in with what they're trying to do regionally, so.
Yeah, and I was thinking, you know, you gotta go big before you
Yeah.
go home. You know, go
Absolutely.
big, let's bring people in. I mean, we've got beds that need to be slept in the hotel rooms. We've
Yeah.
got places that people need to shop, and
Yep.
the more they shop, the more our businesses will be open, like, they'll be open later, they'll be open 7 days a week. Like, if we can get to that point where people aren't driving in here on a Monday and every single business is closed, including myself. You know, that would be awesome, and it would draw people coming back. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people that I watch come into town and they park and they go from business to business to business, and they're closed, and get in my car and they leave, and I'm like, oh, they're not gonna come back.
Yeah.
So,
I've seen that too. So anything else on what you're bringing?
no, I can just get off my information.
Yeah.
And then, so next person, public comment, who wants to be?
So I'm next, and detailing off of all the things that you just said. I am a 501c3. So the Feminine Center received some funding to do a mural. We are rolling it out through the lens of getting some kids excited about it. So we have potentially a coloring book. And I can share some of the vision with you. That'll go into the school district, and kids will be able to give some visioning around what they dream of Cloverdale in the next 5 years, as well as what they would like to see here, you know, where they go that's safe in the community, what do they like to do with their families. And then perhaps there's a conversation here for the Parks and Rec about like what would they imagine in a park. And yeah, and what would they like to have in the park with their families, and what sports they play. And then we're gonna collect all those books, and then we're gonna present them in an infograph style to the city. And our artist, who's local, her mom lives here in Cloverdale, her name's Blanca Molina. She will draft up some versions of what the kiddos have said, and we're imagining this would go up on a wall somewhere, hopefully in a space that is very visible and very family friendly. And we would like at some point, she'll make those 3 examples. City council hopefully will approve it. Then we'll open it up to voting in the community. The community will be able to say, yes, I like this one. So we get some community buy-in around this art. And then hopefully we get some kiddos that come help put some of the art up on the walls. And I'll have to show you some of the work. She has beautiful work.
Yeah, oh, gosh, she's did the work, she did a project for Sonoma Clean Power, and it's amazing.
And so
She's
the
amazing
Healthcare
artist.
Foundation,
Yes.
she's designed our logo for Nuestra Comunidad Sana. She's done some work for Hen House. She's done several murals in the Roseland area, so she's well known.
Yeah.
She's done quite a bit of work for lots of different organizations. And so we want to see more art in town too. We want to make sure that it reflects the community, reflects the diversity of Cloverdale, right? And also through the lens of the future generations of Cloverdale, so youth-centered, youth visioning, because those are the families that are gonna stay here in Cloverdale, hopefully, right? So we wanna make sure that kiddos can say in the next 10, 15, 20 years, when they have their own kids, oh, I helped make that, right? That's part of our legacy here in Cloverdale as well. So different lens, but ultimately the same goal of bringing some more vibrancy into our community. Yeah. So hopefully we can move things forward with our visioning as well, because we have the funding for it. We just wanna make sure we're utilizing it correctly.
I was able to meet with, Kevin and I were able to meet with Jade earlier, just to meet with Blanca and kind of, find out what information they need to bring to the city, and I was just, we're kind of just saying, we're in the nascent stages of really, figuring out what that program would look like. But I think that the two interesting things that I learned was that that Petaluma is using this youth coloring book essentially as like a survey for kids. And then the city of Santa Rosa is doing the same thing to gather information, like what do you like to do in your neighborhood, in your park? How do you spend time with your family? What sports do you like to play? So that they're actually gathering general plan information, which is like, I'm gonna recommend that if we ever do a general plan review, we're using coloring books.
Yeah.
I mean, because I saw it, example, and I was like, oh, I want that, can I have it, where are my crayons, I wanna participate. But I think that it's a really innovative, interesting way to gather information from the local kids. They're the ones using the parks, they're the ones who are going to the schools, they're the ones who are walking and biking, they're the most vulnerable
Right.
in our community.
But
They
what
are
a great
seniors.
question to ask if you're riding your bike, where's the safest
Where's
place
the
in town
safest?
that you feel, right? Because that is the demographic we need to speak to, and those kids know.
Yeah.
I can only guess, and I would, as a mom, I only will hear that from my child, as not now, she's 2, but at some point I'll hear it from her, right?
Right.
But those kids will know,
Yeah.
and they'll be able to pinpoint that from that.
I think, and then when you opened up the coloring book, the centerfold, so to speak, was a black and white coloring of the city of Santa Rosa in this example book. And they could draw the routes that they feel safe biking, they could draw the route that they feel safe, or they could draw the routes that they don't like, or parks they like to go to, and things they like to do at the parks. It's just super cool, it's a super cool way to gather that information, so I guess. So I guess what I wanna see goes with that input, I'm seeing what I think I'm seeing is that we need not exactly, but a comprehensive plan that accommodates both, partnerships with the city, and then also has a process for private property owners and their approval process, and kind of maybe even best practices, because why would you reinvent the wheel if you're putting a mural as a mural at one point? So I kind of like to see us ultimately, I think we're gonna be building the airplane while we're flying it, but I'd like to see ultimately a complete process for the utility boxes, for maybe publicly funded murals that are part of our information gathering for our parks plans, and for our recreation and even our transportation planning. And then also have a facility for managing the privately held, or the ones that are maybe sponsored by Arts Alliance, which I think is also. So that would happen on private property. So I think that it's kind of heavy lift, but I think Kevin's already kind of created the framework for where we need to go.
I think that's all good. I mean, what I was suggest, maybe I'll take what you guys have said, add to this. I think just because Jade's moving quickly, we probably want to get something, at least
let's get
at least the bones, in place, so that when she comes in, we have something to look at to.
And I also know what I need to do.
Yeah.
So I can follow your rules.
Yeah, and go ahead, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. Just one thing too, Kevin, while you're putting this together, if you could just check and see how a mural is interpreted in our sign ordinance. Because we do have some sign ordinances that are in place that we may have to fine tweak as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that there's also the question of a mural that is applied directly to a building, and then the ones that are like, that we already have on the side of, I'm just gonna call it antiques and uniques because, everybody knows what that is. But those are actually on panels. And they are, ultimately, if anything were to happen to that building, then they could be preserved and moved. So we probably have to define our terms when we're talking about a mural or a large art piece attached to a building, which then becomes a sign, and then what if that's in violation of our sign ordinance? So, yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then I'm really interested in getting that data, just because of our huge expansion that we have going on in our parks. I just think it's so important to gather that information. We don't even know they're being surveyed. I think it's so cool. But then get the data and be able to, and say, well, we never thought about that connection. Like, oh, how do we safely connect kids with City Park and Liger Ranch to River Park? Because they want, how do, they might say, I'm not, and I can't blame them for not wanting to ride their bike on First Street, because it's a really, so that's probably something that would come up with a kid being like, oh, mom said I can't, and I don't encourage little kids riding on First Streets on their bikes, because it's really a busy intersection. But how do we connect those two city assets so that they can't, and so that it is safe? And yeah, so that, I think that survey from them would be really valuable. So I see it as more than just, kind of the development of your mural. I really see it as important data points that we can kind of incorporate into our parks planning. So that's what I'd like to be able to see, Kevin, with any partnerships that we might have going forward.
Okay, so I'm just gonna,
And then we can get the wine drinkers the next time. We'll get that.
You guys are really coloring.
Well, the QR code while you're walking.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Lino Jade's looking like April or May to start, so.
So we really do need.
We need to get something in place
Yeah.
prior to that, and I don't know, so if I, it's a little, okay,
But I think that if we develop something, I'd like to see if we develop something, the city policy, then we'll be able to roll it. We'll be able to kind of cookie cutter it and say, here are the guidelines for private property owners and how that program would be structured. Yeah, and where the money would come.
So would we do a separate committee, or would that all be done here as a single committee? Because I want to keep talking and getting out the.
I think ultimately it may grow into an arts committee.
Well, I think,
it may grow into an ad hoc for an arts committee.
when I bring this to council, I'll have questions
Yeah,
that everyone can weigh in on.
yeah.
Who's gonna be who's the body, who's gonna look at the art, do you want, how much money, do you wanna get money? We need to do that, and a few other things, so I'll compile all that and get it on, if that's the direction.
I think does that sound good? Members of the board or members of the subcommittee? And I think we've got the budget process coming up too, so if there are any adjustments that need to be made, we can be sure to discuss it then. All right.
Sarah, tell David I said hello. Don't tell him I got in trouble today. All right.
Do you guys need to tell you, you might want to look up, there's a website, it's called Butterfly Project.
Yeah.
Have you seen it, that girl? Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna try and reach out to her.
Yeah, we
I
can
think
always
she's
talk
in-
offline.
Yeah, she's in college, but.
Yeah.
And then I was gonna give you, the information if you would like it. And for all of you guys, so the gentleman that's totally on board right now is Marvin, who has on board dance studio. He has that giant wall that's right there. I told him on his cell phone and he was like, yeah.
Okay,
well,
yes, I called them too. He's tough to get hold of.
Oh, I got him, yeah. So he's,
I'll email you, we can start the conversation.
Sarah will do all of our cold calling.
Well, Sarah, we should talk too.
Yeah.
Because we can have them. Okay, yeah.
I'm sorry, the plank just closed. I'm sorry about that.
No, we can go to my.
You can do another time.
We can talk in the middle of the room.
So you guys can solve the problems of the world and then let us know what we need to do next. All right, so let's see, let's move on to new business, parking at Second Street Park.
Hector?
Yeah, so it's funny, we're talking about the park earlier today.
No parking at Second Street Park.
So, as we all know, our Second Street City Park is very popular.
Yes.
And, we kind of touched on it last time we were here. Our parks, attendance have quadrupled, and we've had so many kids and so many people attending our parks now, which is good to see. But of course, we got some situations that we got to deal with. One of the strategies here that we thought would be a good idea is to restrike the existing infrastructure that we have there at the Second Street City Park.
Because people can't.
They don't park right. I mean,
They don't park
there's a
right.
situation there where there's the front park this way, And, so I went ahead and asked, Joe Duran, for just a verbal, he gave me a verbal quote to restripe, I think it's 26 parking spots, including 3 ADA spots. And he's willing to donate a good portion of his work. And it ends up being, it's like $2,800, which I need to talk to David and Kevin still. It looks like we have enough money in the budget to do it now, but I want to hear your guys' direction.
That's just on the street?
Is it on the street? The parking lot itself is
Yeah,
good.
yeah, the parking lot was recently done,
Yeah.
it's good, but the reason that it's all held to shelters, they can't see.
I can't see it, yeah, and one of the
And it's
other,
gonna get worse when it rains.
it is,
Yeah.
and then the $2,800 doesn't include, we're also thinking about maybe installing some signage. Near the bump outs, just to let the neighbors know this is park only parking.
They park across the street.
Yeah, they do,
right.
and so, that's another $100 for that, but, I think it would really help out the situation there.
Just a quick question, have any of the neighbors complained about how jammed up it's been?
Yes.
I mean, I can't imagine.
I mean, when I left earlier today, we were doing a little bit of work and we counted, I think it was 11:30, and we counted 26
Yeah.
visitors in the park,
Yeah,
which is a lot early in the morning.
yeah.
They were playing, bag toss, there were
That's
frisbee,
Wednesday morning.
there's everybody with this dog on it. So I think this is just, this is just a start. I
Yeah.
think it'll be a good, easy fix.
Are there any comments from?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Hector, we're talking paint, or we're talking the
Thermal.
Oh, the thermal.
This is just paint. I think to do the thermal, we would have to budget,
Yeah.
it would cost a lot more money, but this would at least get us by for a couple of years.
I like
And what I was suggesting is once we get like Duran to come out and do it, that, afterwards, it's something that we can take on, like the park staff can do that. Once he lays it all out for us and we can have at least a foundation, and then from there on, we can take over, in the winter time, off season, when we're not so busy.
Well, I think, if we were to repaint them all, I think we'd probably maybe pick up 2 more spots.
Yeah.
People
Right.
I think so.
correctly. So my question is, on the other side of the street, which would be the south side, is there no parking there?
Or residents only parking. No, there aren't any signs that
No.
there aren't any.
But there is
Well,
parking.
for the most part, residents that live along there. are the ones-
There is parking.
But they
But
do,
there is, but
So they can park in front of there.
and their house up, yes.
Okay.
but they don't have a sign that says parking only on the park
No.
side. Yeah,
And we
that
need to
might
have-
help.
and we
Because
have-
they do park. I've seen them so
Yeah.
many times. You're walking from the homes and across the street. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the greenhouse, as you go into the park on the right-hand side,
Right,
has some pretty ugly looking driveways. I'd hate to try and get my car up in there, and I'm sure that's why they do it, it's easier.
right.
So on one hand, I get what we're trying to say, parking only. By the same token, I don't like to see those folks, I don't want to say get in trouble, but all of a sudden be forced to park somewhere else. Maybe there's a softer way we could word that, parking. Just something like that. They have to park somewhere, and if we're gonna encourage them to park in front of their house, maybe we have to strike that side as well.
Yeah.
So that's something to think about.
But I'm glad you're not thinking of thermal, because I think that that's gonna be part of why it's gonna take at least a year for us to get, what are we calling it? Soda Springs Ranch, should we just call it that? I want to call
Yeah,
it.
Soda Springs.
Call it Cloverdale
Yeah.
Ridge Park, but yeah, that's.
And we're
We're gonna see, we
Right,
have to have a coloring book for it, for a coloring book contest, but I think because that whole situation. And the folks who have been quietly living on Foothold for years, they're about to get, if it's not done properly and correctly, they could get inundated, and that's not fair either. So it's gonna be part of the ingress and egress. City park, parking, accommodating the neighbors, and then accommodating access to the new park that we have to be. That's gonna take planning, and so that's why I think painting.
Yeah,
And,
and there is a good possibility that later in the future, ag and open space, we can incorporate some of this cost.
yeah,
And
yeah, and you'll be able to use Measure M money and things like that too, so, anything from city manager on this? I think Hector's going in the right direction, but.
I think we can proceed with contracting with a local contractor for the striping unless there's any objections. I believe, Hector, there's sufficient funding in the budget to cover this striping work, and if no budget amendment is required, we can proceed and get a firm under contract to get it painted. I think it's in tremendous need now, so it's really a maintenance item. And I don't see a need unless the subcommittee otherwise directs us to bring it to council.
Yeah.
But I'll take public comment this time.
Yeah,
It's like-
I got 5 grandkids and all 5 love the parks.
Oh.
It's a great job. And their favorites are Second Street, Berber, and I call it Foothill. I don't know if it has another name. Okay.
What's
Yeah.
gonna be so nice is that eventually kids will be as heck, I didn't even think about it, Hector pointed out, kids in the Vintage Meadows area will be able to access the open space to get to City Park.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's.
When does that get announced? You know, the big,
It's been announced that it's.
I mean, like, when can we get into it?
I think it's been announced that we're shooting for a year, but I think that just kind of based on what we were talking about here. And what we hope to do, this was also announced
Yeah.
and in the paper, what we're hoping to do is provide access to private parties like the high school, like land path groups. So that people can get access to it now, but because of the condition of some of the trails after the snowstorms and the rains last year, some of the actually really pretty nice
Yeah.
fire roads are
Yeah.
blocked. And that happened on Anderson's property too. I don't know if
Yeah.
you've been up there, but it actually has worse access than when we first toured it because of the weather event
Yeah.
that we had. So we have to make sure it's safe and accessible. So we'll be able to allow, some of those groups to, it would be great to have Cloverdale High School and middle school,
Yeah.
go on field trips and things like
My
that.
grandkids, they love the park, so keep up the
Yeah.
good work.
Yeah, so, yeah, but you'll actually be able to use that to connect neighborhoods.
Yeah, I thought about it
which is
that day, I thought about it.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't think the kid can ride from Second Street City Park, their bike. And Jake brought up a good point about driving Second Street City Park, they can drive from Second Street over to Vintage Meadows across the park.
And as you do, or as you plan to open that park, say in a year or so, you're gonna also have a good number of facilities. I was reading in some of the Press Democrat that there was one councilman that didn't like some of the state parks, you don't have good amenities, but if it's a city park, I'm hoping there's good restrooms,
Well,
to do barbecues. and all that.
we have an agreement with Ag and Open Space, there are certain conditions that are allowed.
Can't do.
They can't, but what's nice is that it's actually an open space that is adjacent to a park that has
Yeah.
Oh, there you
barbecue
go.
pits, bathrooms, both, and big drinking fountains.
Right.
It's just like, it looks,
Fits perfect, I mean, it's just, City Park is a block away,
yeah,
and Vintage Meadows is 2 blocks away.
Yeah.
Because we're planning on doing a soft entrance and on the end of Foothill Boulevard there. So
Yeah.
it's right in the middle of,
Yeah,
which
we sometimes we'll walk there, kids are now older, walk from where we are to.
Yeah. Oh,
but
that's great.
that's why it's like the salt kind of just doing a less expensive solution for this now, because we are going to be engaging in this larger planning process. I think that's the right approach, and also keep the people and keep the neighbors happy
Yeah.
now, because I think that if I lived there, I would be like, oh, I'm excited, I got 209 acres in my backyard that I don't have to mow, but I want to be able to like have people over for Thanksgiving and have them be able to park still. So we experience that with Friday Night Live, and we experience that actually with the River Park sometimes.
Yeah.
We see people on First Street park and pull their bikes down and then leave the car all day.
Yeah, I mean, that's.
It's like, wow,
Yeah.
okay. Because the River Park parking is full, I think.
Yeah.
And so they come back, they go down to First Street, and so that's the thing that we, as far as planning long term, that we need to really work out.
Great.
Yeah.
And don't forget to bring your grandchildren to Clock Walk.
Yes.
I don't know if I've ever
Yeah.
been there. That's a nice one, more rides and.
Well, they also asked me, I haven't taught them how to do horseshoes, I'm not sure,
Oh,
Yeah.
but I think they prefer the beanbags, I'm not sure.
Beanbag
They
is
take
nice.
up some of the horseshoe ones and put in
Those are
other
done.
things.
Yeah,
They
they
did that.
They
didn't
have- they have
Yeah.
So, yeah, but I think that also there are leagues for there, one of the things we haven't thought about, I didn't think about it until afterwards we did it. That park is so popular and there's a parking problem because people are into the beanbag throw. I've
Yeah.
seen people
So,
like this the 2 times that, or I've probably been there more often, but like during the daytime. I'm seeing people there and there are groups and they are using the beach bag thing.
I played it on Saturday, the American Legion was in it, and I got 8 points. So,
There you go, so.
little, you know.
There we go, but that's the, I mean, yeah, we don't wanna, it's a popularity is
Yeah,
killing.
very, yeah, it's so popular now, not this weekend coming up, but the following week, I mentioned earlier, there's a tournament.
Yeah, okay, so there you go, there's the tournament, because there are leagues that are using
Yeah.
it and they are.
Those 2 spots in place quick.
I know, it's happening.
So it kind of bleeds into the parking situation. When they have a league event, they should have to reserve those.
Yeah, so
They
they,
in high school.
yeah, so they finished all their permit insurance.
Oh, okay.
We're sponsoring it, the parks are sponsoring it, so we waive like one thing we did is we waived the initiation fee,
Oh,
just
okay.
we're sponsoring, yeah.
Okay.
Or, but,
And encourage them to walk.
exactly. Yeah, most of the time, yeah, sometimes they come try it, yeah.
Encourage the kids to walk or ride.
Absolutely now, so it's
Okay,
gonna be fun,
fine.
I can't wait.
I think we killed that, great job, Hector, that's a great approach, but it's like, you know, pulling on a string because it affects that entire neighborhood and we wanna make sure that
Right, and this will get the neighborhood at least knowing that
we're working on it, yeah, we're not just like, oh, you're on your own, so good job. There we go, okay, so are there any other comments? I don't, not seeing any. We'll move on to E2, South Cloverdale pre-annexation agreement. Is that you, Kevin?
Yeah, David might wanna say something too, but it's in here, it's not ready. I mean, we found some stuff in there. Fairly recently that are giving us a little pause based really on who's obligated to do what.
Mhm.
So, I mean, just know this is coming, but we're gonna go back to the attorney and have them, we want it to be really close to the 6 acres.
Mhm.
There's just some stuff in there that gave us a little pause. I don't know, David, if you want to add anything.
Yeah, what in particular snagged your attention, David? Just
Yes.
you go to the page number or the section, yeah,
Page 4.
page 4, okay, actually, I'm on page 4 because I made a note, go ahead.
Chair Bagley, Kevin, for your overview. We've just as a way of background, we've been working with UC Davis School of Law on drafting a pre-annexation agreement for South Cloverdale Mutual Water Company. And just a little bit of background, I think probably will address Mr. Kozlowski's comments as to why are we doing this? And you know, this is relates to two set of bills that were adopted by former Governor Brown, which basically gave the authority to the state water board to require small water systems to what they call consolidate with larger systems. And kind of in our world, we when we talk about consolidation, because we're a city, we refer to that as annexation. So the term kind of consolidation and annexation are used somewhat interchangeably. But we were requested by the state water board to consider annexing or consolidating with both 6 acres and South Cloverdale Mutual Water Company. You know, they have the authority to mandate it, though they to voluntarily encourage consolidation, extension of service. And we've been working, now for almost 8 years with 6 acres, and it's probably just about the last 2 that we began working with the South Cloverdale Mutual Water Company, and again under the guise that the state could force consolidation. In doing so, in going through this process, at least initially with 6 acres, council's direction was to seek funding for providing the critical infrastructure services that are necessary to serve this area. Those services primarily entail water, of course, because that's, you know, the issue at hand that's being directing this matter to go forward, but also in addition, wastewater services. And when the pre-annexation agreement came before council, council was pretty adamant that funding be provided by the state to cover the cost both extension of infrastructure for water services, but also wastewater services. So that's really kind of the what's driving this whole process. It wasn't necessarily of our own interest to inherit or annex these areas. So from a logical perspective, kind of looking at it through the lens of the local agency formation commissioner, LAFCO, these areas are within our sphere of influence, and we're kind of ultimately planned for being part of the city. But normally we partner with developers on that process, and they provide all the requisite infrastructure. So with respect to 6 acres, and I think ultimately with South Cloverdale, we want to minimize any impact to the city as much as we can financially, and therefore we're with 6 acres. The model that is being used is that the planning effort is being funded by the State Water Board, Prop 1A funds primarily, and hiring a project manager and ultimately a firm to do the necessary engineering analysis to support extension of water and wastewater services to those areas as part of annexation. So council has already adopted the agreement for 6 acres. We're going to be bringing forward the annexation agreement, which will closely mirror the pre-annexation agreement for 6 acres, because that's getting pretty close to getting ready to go. The engineering work is kind of, it's moving along slowly, but it's getting to a point where we'll support filing of an application for LAFCO. With 6 acres, we haven't brought it to council yet. This is really the first step in our 2-step process of having a subcommittee take a look at it. And the primary issue with the South Cloverdale agreement is it doesn't provide the same language around funding. The language more or less puts the burden on the city to seek all of the funding that is necessary to support the all the work, the legal work, the engineering work, the planning work to support future annexation. And we want to ensure as much as we can consistency between the 2 agreements to reflect council direction, council policy, but also to minimize the impact on certainly our all residents, but most importantly ratepayers, because we really can't burden ratepayers for the cost of these annexations or the cost of infrastructure to service it. But once they are annexed, those will become they would become rate-paying customers of the water enterprise. So that would be something, there would be an ongoing water service charge to those residents. So the critical issue that we need to resolve with the pre-annexation agreement for South Cloverdale is the issue of who's responsible for funding the work, and who would be the lead on that. Again, looking at the 6 acres project, the state stepped up and has assigned the appropriate professional personnel to oversee that process. Again, hiring UC Davis School of Law, hiring a project manager, hiring planners, and hiring a professional engineering firm, and doing the requisite grant work to support funding all that. In the pre-annexation agreement with South Cloverdale, it kind of puts the burden on the city, and I think the state would favor that. They would much rather kind of not have to have all of their staff participate in the multiple hearings and do all the funding. They kind of I think would prefer to put that on the city, and so that's the work we need to do. Is I think to is to make sure that there's some consistency between our approach with 6 acres as there is with South Cloverdale, and that's I think what Mr. Thompson was kind of pointing out was that there's there and how the funding was going to be addressed with these 2 projects or 2 different areas. So that's really it. Other than that, I think I mean, there are some kind of policy issues that may want to weigh in on. For example, with South Cloverdale, it's a fairly large area in comparison to 6 acres, which is a very discrete, well-defined kind of boundary of homes. South Cloverdale includes properties that are already within the city boundaries or within city limits, and it's more a function of, you know, making sure that they are ready to connect to city services upon an annexation. And then there are some vacant properties that we could, you know, seek your counsel on in terms of, you know, do they need to, should they be required to connect immediately, or should that be kind of a future item dependent on the type of and nature of development that is sought on those vacant properties? And I would kind of defer to the latter. Not required at this point. The backbone infrastructure be installed again through funding provided by the state, but that not all properties necessarily have to connect immediately upon annexation. But there's a lot to kind of unpack in that, and we can go into more detail at a future meeting if you like. But that's kind of a policy issue that we want to get some guidance on. So we're really being tactical in our approach on which properties get city services and which ones don't upon annexation of those areas.
Thanks for the summary. Anything else, Kevin?
Well, I mean, if the committee's okay, David and I can work this out with their attorney and bring it to the council, or if you prefer, we can bring it back here for another check. It's up to you. I think we're pretty close, except for this, you know, city self-secure funding language, and we want that to replicate what's in the 6 acres annexation agreement, like David said.
No, I have my opinion, but I'll wait for input from the Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Melanie. You know, I'm not in favor of us taking the lead on this of finding out funding. I mean, it's ridiculous for them to make a mandate, have it be unfunded, and all of a sudden we're supposed to turn around and try and raise that capital or get that money to do it. And as far, you know, I think this is such an important item that my suggestion, Madam Chair, is to bring it back to the full city council right from the get-go. Because if they're looking for us to come up with capital to do this, you know, we can't afford to. The whole thing is going to be a nightmare anyhow with that whole section that we're annexing. It's awful. It's like almost going through a third world country when you drive those roads. So, and all of a sudden we're going to be responsible for that. Right?
Well, I think that the city manager summarized very well previous direction, and that was, I mean, the irony is like you went back and described the history of how long we've been doing this, and I was on the subcommittee during the first round of this, during I think the first meeting of both of the water companies, with this deal kind of just trying to get a front row seat to what the process was. And we were really clear from the beginning, and you nailed it, David, is that if this is gonna happen, it needs to be funded. And it can't be us, because we can't put that burden on existing ratepayers. So I think I think you nailed it. So I would say that if you're able to change the wording and get an agreement that reflects what you were just describing, then it can come to the full council. It can come to the full council for final. But I mean, I don't see it being enthusiastically met unless you get everything that you laid out, which was pretty much in line with what we've been saying for the last 6 years. It's been a while. Yeah.
And also it's, you know what, Rains Water District is gonna be right behind South Cloverdale Water District. So it's, you're absolutely right. It's ridiculous for us to put this on the back of our ratepayers.
We have to stand our ground and set a precedent. We were very clear from the beginning that the first agreement with 6 acres was gonna be the model. South Cloverdale was going to follow that model. So, with that, I think we've given, I mean, we're good. And then I'll just open it up for public comment.
Yeah, that's actually the reason I came,
Sure.
is there was an attachment that was sent out, I think, by Mike. And I read it in detail, and to your point, Kevin talked to me before the meeting about how the state's gonna cover it, but there was specific sections, 312, 3214, 3222, and 3226, where it looks like the city would be exposed to a huge cost related to what it would expose us to the current water customers for applying these 38 properties with respect to the proposed shift of water and sewage, right? Then the concern as a resident is how would this impact our water and sewer rates today? That would definitely be a rise if there's not, issues aren't addressed by the state to help. And then the concern we have is there's been a lot of talk in the past about capital improvement projects and which ones would be impacted or delayed because of this additional cost and expense for the city of Cloverdale. And then what additional costs over and above the initial water and sewer connections required in their agreement that I guess you're working on, Kevin, to upgrade the existing water distribution system and appurtenances, I don't know that word, to meet city design standards and Cloverdale Fire Protection District. So there's all these additional costs that you can just see potentially coming in. And then what are the costs of the city in acquiring and then rehabbing and maintaining a new well two. I know you're working on rehabbing one of the wells, putting in a new well. And here's a well two that you're going to be inheriting, how much cost there with that. So my overall concern on those line items 312, 3214, 3222, and 3226 are related to additional costs to the city and then the subsequent rates for us.
Yeah, and that's the ones we picked up on. I mean, they are in.
Okay.
They are in this.
So I should have looked at it then.
Those marked.
Okay, so we're all on the same page.
Indeed.
They're in the grant program. It's really a lot of wrangling has been around who's gonna be the project manager, who's gonna do the paperwork side to it. And we've been pushing back on that as well, because it's typically an engineer and it's gonna be expensive, so. We hear what you're saying and we agree, and we're gonna work on this and see where we can get with it.
All right, I mean, it's difficult because we we choose who we annex sometimes and we don't choose who we annex sometimes. Sometimes it is a state mandated.
So the state is forced this
Yeah.
on the city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's because of the water quality issues that they're concerned with. And those are health and safety issues. And so we don't have the luxury of saying, oh, well, we're gonna profit from that annexation, or we're gonna make our tax base or, we don't have that luxury. We have to we're sometimes forced to make it work. But we were very clear from the beginning that what our capacity is to handle this. And yeah, you guys nailed it. So let's do our best to get the same deal, because yeah, we would be hard pressed to be able to handle this financially. That's putting it very mildly. So and some of it is legacy issues from the state that the county has left so many of these areas, the lack of improvement. So they should be ponying up some money as well to help bring those areas up to or nearer to our, at least our R3 standards. So.
And I know with 6 acres, that fell into disrepair because there was non-compliance by 6 acres water district to what the agency was mandating them to do, and they just let it go.
Yeah.
And now it's 25 years later, they've swollen into disrepair, and Cloverdale gets the
They
bail.
didn't keep their social contract.
Right.
Which is unfortunate. Okay, so are there any other comments on E2? I think you have pretty clear direction, and yeah, great summary. Both of you, yeah, I think you're on it.
They've been great summary.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Rob.
Zero.
So we'll go on to E1. Oh no, we've got that. That's not right. I gotta flip it over. Standing items. So we're gonna go to section F. Update on community development law.
Yeah, just real quick, probably the biggest development was the builder's remedy application that we received for the parcel in front of the old Bear Republic, which is we're meeting with Myers Nave this week. We're gonna put together a strategy. We'll be bringing that forward for the council to talk about. More to come on that. I think it's really an untested new law
I think he's throwing it up to see if it's stick.
Yeah,
I mean, it's for cities that don't have adopted housing elements. We had an adopted housing element 1 week after we received this. So it really was for cities, the intent was for cities who were just blowing off the housing element, not for ones who were.
No, we were being diligent.
And one of the points just really quick is we adopted the housing element in April, so maybe that's an argument that. So we'll be discussing with Myers-Nave and.
I mean, the state dragged their heel and sort of.
Yeah, it was
exactly.
the response back. It wasn't we had it in, so.
Yeah, and I think that ultimately one of these is gonna end up in a court case, but.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, then we'll move, and there's no one in the public, so I'll just move on to F2. Do we need, I think we covered that, right? So
Yeah.
we're gonna skip to F3.
Yeah.
Something on that?
I would request if the committee's okay, we take this off, because the housing element
Yep, it's
certified.
done.
Yep.
There we go.
It's on the
Let's
website.
take it off. F4, update on downtown Wi-Fi.
I don't have anything, I don't
We
know
have
if David
anything?
has anything on the downtown Wi-Fi,
Nothing to report.
Well, ancillary, not specifically Wi-Fi, but it's a move in the direction. We are communicating with a service provider, a broadband service provider, about additional extension of services to City Hall and city facilities. And in addition, we are also communicating with the Sonoma County Economic Development Board, who is overseeing funding that was granted by the Board of Supervisors for extension of broadband services in the unincorporated area. And that they are part of a JPA, and we're going to explore whether to bring that forward for council consideration, if we can be a member and receive the benefits of the membership, which includes, being the recipient of some of their funding. They have the goal of expanding service, broadband services to the community through, various means, including Wi-Fi in public areas. And so this is an area we continue to make this incremental progress on in terms of trying to seek solutions, one, to solve the needs of the city in terms of broadband services, but also to be able to expand upon those services. So not a tremendous amount of movement, but we are making steps in the direction to avail ourselves to additional funding that will be made available through the state and federal government for extension of broadband, which could include Wi-Fi in our downtown.
Glad that tip paid off. That'll be great. So look forward to hearing more. Any questions? No, see, now we'll move on to F5 and Clearwater Ranch.
I'm working on a report to bring back to council on the next meeting about the UGB urban growth boundary ballot initiative. So there'll be a discussion there. Probably one of the updates is we had a talk with Mr. Anderson on the property that you and I toured, and Hector, and he is a willing participant and potentially financially backer a little bit of a ballot, because he's got an interest in getting his property within our UGB. So I'll be coming back next council meeting with a little more discussion and seeking direction on how you want to proceed.
Have we reached out to any of the other hillside property owners who might be interested or benefit from?
Not yet.
You're talking Bob and Louise Anderson?
No, different
she-
Anderson, other
David
Anderson,
Anderson.
North Anderson, not South Anderson.
Oh, up north.
North
Dave
Anderson.
Anderson.
Dave Anderson.
Yeah,
Is it Dennis?
I do
No,
know
he's a-
Linda, I don't know.
he's a developer.
So he, I'll try to reach out, I'm a little behind on that, but, we'll have something for you guys to take a look at the next meeting.
Yeah, that would be great.
So, now Anderson up north, are we encouraging him because he's out of the urban growth boundary?
Well,
Or are we just,
No,
a few years ago, he approached us about, if he could build a few houses on the lower part in exchange for, permanent open space on the upper part.
Kevin, where I'm going though is, we're looking to, put both of them on the ballot initiative.
Well, no, I think we want
No.
to do is, move the UGB out far to include almost the entirety of the western slope.
Okay, I'm just concerned whether that would scare voters away from supporting, Clearwater. For the simple reason that now all of a sudden they're gonna think, well, they're moving the urban growth boundary so he can build houses up there. And as a result, would they be better off just going it alone for their move of the urban growth boundary?
It's a good point.
That's the call.
And
That's
one
the
of the
call we're
things,
talking.
one of the things I'm including in the staff report for the council meeting is looking at the zoning that's in the county
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
They, compared to what our zoning potentially would be maybe rural residential.
Mhm.
They're allowed to do a lot of stuff under the
Yeah.
county zoning.
Yeah.
A lot more than probably what we would allow. If we just say we designated rural residential, which is big lots and big setbacks and, a lot of that kind of thing. But right now, there's about 40 different things that the county allows.
Right.
I mean, so I'll have an analysis, just so you know, potentially moving that UGB could, give us more control and actually potentially less development.
Well, it's actually, and it's in keeping with the current federal plan guidelines for the western hillsides, and his property, his project was the one that really set that in motion in the first place. It was, if I were to do limited development and then in exchange for that, allow for open space, either public or just in protection and protect the hillside. That was where the entire idea came from, was his property.
Oh, really?
So it's kind of, it would be a little hypocritical to say, oh, we're gonna just do it for Clearwater, but you're on your own. So, because he's been working with us for, he's been trying to work with the city for years on this.
Yeah.
And that's where and it's why we qualified for, which one of the boxes that we were able to tick when we were applying for the Ag and Open Space Grant is that's in the general plan.
Yeah.
And so,
I have all the general plan stuff in
all the
this
general plan
report.
stuff.
There's a lot of exceptions to the UGB, which
Mhm.
I don't know how that occurred, but anyway, I hopefully have a good conversation with you guys on next Wednesday about this, and, I may have to come back again, because it's a big weighty item, and, you may not be able to just have a decision or
Yeah.
direction, but.
But it would be nice to have consistent policy so that, if there is any movement on Angeli, it would be the same situation, is that he's actually, the difference is that in Angeli, there's a city limits component, and then there are lots that are in the county, but it's still kind of a model that we're looking for, which is having, housing in exchange for it, then adding to our open space and adding to our ridge lines. So
I think it's a delicate.
it's delicate, yeah. But I think that the voters are sophisticated enough to understand it. We're also not talking about 20 parcels, we're talking about a handful of parcels. And what it would look like if, well, here's what under the county rules, here's what he could do. And then under our rules, this is what he could do. And we have possibly potential to negotiate to expand the open space. And so I think that's something that the voters can understand.
Yeah, well, I agree with what you said, and I do remember that, those conversations we had with Anderson at the time, but, getting back to the current one, I just want to make sure that, Clearwater is comfortable with us tagging Anderson along on this, because I don't want to get sued later by them that we didn't handle it right and it was rejected by the voters.
Well, they're already working with that other adjacent landowner.
Yeah, but not Anderson.
No, but they're.
Babu.
But,
Yeah.
With the pond.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I don't know. We're gonna have to really think about it and work with them and. I mean,
Yeah, but it's all but I mean, I think that this is these examples of the questions that are gonna come up at council, example of questions that are gonna come up from the public, so. The more prepared we are, the better, but also I think it would be nice, it's helpful when people understand the history of. His project is the whole reason that we kind of came up with that strategy, yeah, so. Like to honor that legacy, 'cause he's been a pretty good partner up until now, so. And also, to the point, I really see Clearwater Ranch as such an important part of the community and their project being, it's so modest for the benefits that we're all gonna get, that,
Yeah.
I wanna make sure that they have their best chance.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's, you know.
It's a tough one.
I want the water.
Do we wanna maybe, because Clearwater Ranch doesn't really encompass, it's Clearwater but there may be UGB.
Mike, we can change the F5 to UGB discussion or
Yeah,
something like that.
or Western Hillside, your boundary issues, so we can maybe more appropriately, talk about it as a whole. All right, anything else on that? No, okay, ride program, I don't have any news, you guys have any news?
No.
Okay. All right, we'll leave it on standing items though right now, because that is something that it's waiting for things to settle at SCTA before we can really move forward. And then you have an update on design standards?
Yeah, we're working to bring something to planning commission, hopefully by the end of the year or in January. We got direction from council, so we're moving forward with that.
Great, okay, update on SB 852, climate resilient communities?
I don't have any updates.
I don't either. Okay, update on dog park.
So I think we're all set to go. We have been waiting for the contractor to start the project for the last couple of weeks and he had to finish a couple projects before he can start ours. He did mention that he would start this week, if not tomorrow or the following day to start mobilizing the equipment. So we're hoping we can get started this week, and according to Clay Anderson, he said it would take 2 to 3 weeks to complete the project, depending on weather.
Too many Andersons.
Yeah, he's the Anderson with the.
Oh, or an E.
Hector ordered the drinking fountain, he's got the fence guy lined up, so.
We
You
met.
got your list all.
Yeah, so we got ordered the trees, all the trees are ordered, ready to be picked up.
Awesome.
So we've been working on ordering some of the stuff. We met with Johannes on Friday, just to kind of go over, Johannes, some kind of probably work.
We've heard of them,
Yeah, you know, he's everywhere, that guy.
Sir.
So we met with him and with Brian Albee, just to make sure that, went over the project, make sure they're okay with it. Because they've seen it on paper, but they actually haven't seen it in person, so they were all good, really great.
Tax Sonoma County Transit, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's, yeah.
Exactly, so they were good with everything.
Yeah, see, now people are gonna be trying to bring their dogs on Sonoma County Transit, so maybe we're creating a problem. but-
What about the restroom facilities?
Yeah, have we made any headway there?
We met, I briefly mentioned it to Johannes there and Brian Albee about possibility of them opening their restrooms there. Because they do have restrooms there.
Didn't like that, did
They did it,
Yeah.
but I don't know, I mean, it could be another conversation we can have with them.
Well, it might be a conversation that we could maybe push with Smart as well, because as actually, I know they manage it, but it is Smart's jurisdiction. And I know that there was some interest in possibly opening the office, so let me see what I can do.
Yeah.
Push that along.
Whose district?
It actually belongs to Smart, it's Smart's right
Yeah.
away.
Right.
So,
That's
yeah, but right now, Sonoma County they co-manage it because, they can't get to it, so,
and on a temporary basis, we could always get one of those.
yeah,
That's,
yeah.
Yeah, handicap.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely. All right, well, we'll keep fighting on the dog park front on
Get it going.
all issues. Okay, and then benches on park trails. What have we started?
So we've been working, Kevin and I are working, and everybody's been putting a little bit, effort trying to get these, co-memorative park amenity program. So we have, one of the things we talked about, I think I said that, this is just the drafts, I sent it to Mike, so you can share it with you guys, I can see that already. So this is just kind of what we've been working on, it's, one of the things we want is that. I figured that we can piggyback tree planting as well as a bench program. So for the bench program itself, donors might select a bench from an approved selection. And location from the list of bench sites maintained by the city. So, for example, like the ones we have downtown in the plaza. And we're still, this is just a draft, one of the things we would ask is for the donor to pay for the entire bench. And the plaque, and then the city will maintain, all the maintenance. And that's kind of our way to recuperate some of those funds, this is from the city of Windsor as well. So,
We steal from them.
yeah, they got such a big work on
It's
and stuff.
not a city too.
Yeah, so.
We have a connection.
So this is just a draft, and then I figured we could, they have a great program there with the city of Windsor where you can do the same thing with trees, so I figured,
Yeah.
you know, some of those.
I've seen that in other cities
Yeah.
too, which is, it's really a nice touch.
And some of those trees, I mean, those trees are expensive, so I mean, if somebody wants to donate a tree, you know, we won't be able to put a plaque or anything, but at least they'll be able to fill out a form to show them there briefly, and then that way we can get, you know, trees, or the trees gotta be approved of the street tree ordinance and all that, but I think that'd be, no, that just, we gotta fine tune it, and then hopefully, I don't care if they bring it to city council when we get that, or.
That's a great
We can
idea.
either bring it back here or.
Yeah.
And, get it, polish it up, bring it to council.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you polish it up, bring it back here, and we can put it
Yeah.
on consent, and then if anybody
Okay.
has any, I can't see
Yeah.
that there would be any opposition to this.
No, I think it's gonna be great. I mean, we know those benches that we purchased are very expensive. And I think you could bring some of that money back and use it in the parks. And then we can use the same program for other parks, for Vintage Meadows Park, for River Park, the new Lido Ranch. We can use the same program here, these sort of Springs Ranch. Porterville Creek, we can do, well, once we have that in place, it'll be easy to move on to those projects.
I know we're gonna come up with a whole plan for, slash those springs, but it would be, you know, I just really, whatever the family is comfortable with
Yeah.
commemorating the history of
Yeah.
that and making it a really nice, you know, whatever they're comfortable with, just a commemorate.
I practiced that order for the meeting, I still couldn't get it. I talked to my colleagues, the city of Windsor colleagues that we have as Parks and Recs,
Yeah,
roundtable discussions once every other week. And they mentioned that actually the trees are actually better popular than the benches.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they've
Yeah.
been getting more, they've been getting more inquiries from the trees.
And how do they recognize the individual? Do they do a temporary stake in the ground or
Yeah, so the location would have to be determined by us.
sculptures?
Yeah, so the location would have to be, you know, determined by us, and then we would give them a list of trees. Approved tree list
Yeah.
of trees that they can plant on, like, for example, Vintage Meadows or even, you know, like the Lido Ranch or.
I don't think they get a plaque or anything.
No,
Yeah.
they get some type of certificate from us, we would have to create some certificate to say, you know, you planted this tree as Vintage Meadows Park, this is your tree.
and then as an arborist, do you keep a record of do you keep a record of the origin and like, of like a tree database?
Yes, yes, we do, yeah.
So you can track it, like if someone comes and says, I wanna see grandma's tree, you could
Yeah.
ask, and you
Yeah,
could say,
absolutely.
you could just give them the GPS coordinates.
Yes, here it is.
Here it is, bam,
Yeah, that would be, especially since our town is so small, I mean,
Yeah.
that would be really pretty easy.
that'd be pretty easy.
Yeah,
yeah.
but this is very, according to, you know, they're very popular. It's
Yeah.
a program that. the city of
And
Windsor.
would the cemetery be included in this?
I think it's a good idea. I mean, cemetery, of course, is a different type of tree, different,
Right,
different,
it's
you
a
know.
whole other thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, so every park, you know, like, you know, for example, like sort of Springs Ranch, that's, you know, based on oak trees and stuff, so.
yeah,
So where like Vintage Meadow, they have more ornamental trees. So each park has its own little tree.
Yeah.
Group list that we can,
Oh, that's
work with, so.
yeah.
Yeah, we'll clean it up and we'll read it up.
Thanks for putting that together, Hector.
Yeah, that's a great plan.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. And, Great River Trail. I just have a short update. We are interviewing executive directors again this week.
Oh, wow.
Because we had a little glitch in the matrix, after our first round. And we'll hope to have an announcement for you in November. So that's pretty much, but I mean, the community outreach and is just, it's tremendous in the amount of value that we've gotten out of the consultants and actually the current staff have really put us on a path, pardon the pun, for just being able to, you know, knock out sections of this trail. So just, yeah, no, when we have an executive director announced, which is selected, announced, hopefully it's gonna really take off. So
Great.
more in November.
Recreation.
Yeah, and then, yeah, update on recreation programming.
Well, we've gotten our civic rec program up and running. We've done Hector and I and Mike and I think Susie has all done the training. So right now, Mike, you can chime in here, or David, if you have anything to add, but we're gonna put together a survey to understand what the community would like to see as rec program, and I know Mike organized a meeting with the senior center, so we got some input there. Mike, if you wanna add anything, or David?
Yeah, well, so, like I said, we just got a new software license for Survey Monkey, so we have a poll out right now to the community for Ferber Park as kind of a little pilot in using the software, and then we're gonna be hopefully, pushing out a much larger survey just to see what the citizens in Cloverdale and the greater area are really interested in, because I know that, you know, myself and has a lot of recreation experience as far as programming goes, but it's very specific to what does the community want. Just because I think it's something that would be successful doesn't mean that that's what the community wants. So we really want to point our efforts, since we don't have many staff members and, you know, funds to go towards this effort, to ensure that we're looking for programs and events and things that the communities actually would participate in and would really enjoy, at least to start, before we start branching off into everything else that we want to offer. But so that will hopefully be going out, I'd say in December likely, and then go out for a few months, and then we can, with those results, really start to look for instructors and find ways to get these programs off my blackboard into the public. So we're excited for that. And like Kevin said, we have been reaching out to different groups. We've met with the senior center already as far as some efforts in collaboration with them, because one big part of recreation is to get everybody from infants to seniors. So it's not just the kids in our area. We want to make sure that there's recreation services and programs for everybody. So that's part of our efforts there. I know Hector can touch a little bit on the Boys and Girls Club and using their facility and doing some collaboration there. And yeah, we kind of have a 3 to 5 year plan that we're working on, and it's going to continue to adapt as we get different groups and folks in that into collaborating with us. So that's kind of where we are right now. We're not at a standstill, but we are going to be really doing a marketing and outreach effort before moving forward. And that's about all I have on that.
The council already adopted the agreement that we can use for the instructors.
Yeah.
And then kind of a split, and then.
Set up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, David.
Well, just to add a couple of pieces to this, as Park Superintendent Galvan reported earlier, we're seeing a tremendous amount of folks using our parks, and that includes a host of private contractors that are providing recreation services. And you know, we're starting to see some conflicts with those groups with our, you know, routine maintenance schedules, because they're not
Scheduling conflicts.
it's not and
It's not erupting into street brawls over the beanbag phase, right? Is that
right.
Not yet, right?
No, it's a great problem to have. Reflection of there's tremendous desire to use our parks and interest in, you know, park programming and rec programming. And I think this our move towards recreation programming can help address that issue as well. And hopefully one, you know, be a collaborative relationship between these organized activities and the city by bringing it under our umbrella, being a hub for collecting the revenue and paying the instructor, and, you know, making sure we're also addressing any, you know, potential safety concerns, but, you know, doing it in a managed fashion as there becomes more competition for the limited space we have. So I think it's really timely, because the community is, you know, is reflecting that they really want these services. So these, you know, what we're doing, I think this work that Kevin and Hector and Mike are all pursuing is right on target with community desires. And, you know, I think is, you know, in addition to that, I think it's something we're going to be bringing forward is a proposal for the Scouts cabin and how we can enhance that use as part of our rec program as well. And you know, not only to provide additional community space in terms of a community center, but as a rental facility for you know, community events, and also for housing our, you know, rec program, because we certainly don't have adequate space at City Hall. So all good stuff in the works. And I just want to say thanks to the team. They've you know, taken the effort to bring this, you know, to give some legs to this program, and keep building, and we've launched, and now we're just trying to build the program.
So question about our scheduling issue, I wonder, everybody's worked in a bunch of other cities that have great programs. Is there ever ever signage that says, hey, to reserve this space, go to, I wonder if we need to have a sign with a QR code and so at least it sends a message that, oh, well, you came along to the beanbag thing and it wasn't manned and it's totally cool, but oh, you can reserve it for a party, or you can't, or somebody may walk up and want to play pickleball, because they have a tournament that has been scheduled.
No, that's a great idea.
If that just sort of sends the message.
Yeah, Kevin and I talked about it, David, we talked about it, Mike, we talked about, just purchasing some kiosks or information centers, so you can put and have a QR code to the,
QR code,
QR
like
code,
exchange
yeah.
it for reservations.
Or just even like for this next
Or
weekend coming up,
schedule.
not this next week, but the following weekend, there's a beanbag toss, tournament. We can put that in that information center at the entrance of the park.
That's
Yeah,
10 a.m.
Exactly.
beanbag tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
And-
it will avoid conflict.
And I like David said, this is a good thing to have. I think
Yeah,
the program's already happening out there in the park.
Yeah.
So we just gotta bring them into our program and.
you just need to be able to mow when you need to mow.
Yeah, we need to mow and we need to collect some of that money so we can keep
Yeah.
making the parks look nice and it's use some of that funding for maintenance.
Yeah.
But because it's already happening. We have yoga going on out there. We have Tai Chi, we have all kinds of other Zumba the other day. I was actually approached this morning by another Cloverdale resident that wants to have a yoga class here at the plaza. So I told her, I wasn't gonna talk to Kevin, David, talk about it, but that's, I mean, so he said, oh, we heard we heard about the Parks and Recs. You guys were getting the program going, so the word is out,
Yeah.
and everybody's talking about it, so I think it's a good thing
Cool.
for us.
No, I mean, it's a great problem, so you're doing a great job. I think we have to just keep up.
Way to keep up, yeah, and then, the maintenance, like, oh, we have to mow, we have
Sometimes
200 kids come later today to play soccer, so that's,
you gotta strive.
yeah, we gotta drive and all that stuff.
Well, thanks for being so conscientious out there.
Looks great.
Yeah. Anything else, Mr. Vice Mayor?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Well, that's it for F12, so that pretty much does, we covered, update art program, is that our art program?
That's what we talked about when
13.
we moved that to the beginning.
Right,
That's what
so,
that was.
okay, that, and then, okay.
F1 is just the attachment.
Yeah, you've got plenty of,
Yeah,
direction.
yeah,
I think that there is a demand for public art.
yeah.
and making sure it's not guerrilla art.
We gotta get ahead of it.
That's
That's what we're-
well, they can't turn over a mural, so, anyway, so future agenda items, let's just, I go through the list quickly. I don't see any changes we necessarily need to make.
We, G4 is from the last council meeting.
Okay.
It's left from Familia Sana. We just put it on future because we didn't keep it on the standing item or new items, just because we didn't think there'd be an update since last week.
Yeah,
We can move it up though.
we'll move it up, and then G5, you think?
Can we go back to the,
Sorry, do you want to just go back and do one item at a time, G1?
yeah, when we start talking about the program that they want to put on, at the presentation to the city council, there was some conversation revolving around a survey that was done, but the results weren't shared. I'd kind of like to drill down a little bit and see what results they had.
Okay.
What exactly is the community looking for when it comes to programs?
Maybe we can schedule another presentation here. and just
Yeah,
so we
I'll start talking about it. They don't even, I'm sure they'll be here, but I just would like to know what questions that they asked and how would they respond.
I'll coordinate what you need to let her know that.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
Okay. Actually, we should go through these one at a time. So there's no update on the regulation size pool, which I think ultimately might dovetail into the community plan, because that was one of the things that was asked for. So we can just leave it as a standing item.
Okay.
Pedestrian passage, Citrus Fair, I don't know what that means.
What does that mean?
I think, wasn't that the Urban Land Institute suggestion of David, am I getting that wrong? There was gonna be a door in the sound wall or something?
Oh,
The-
that's,
there-
that's what it is. Okay.
There was a study done by the previous city engineer to evaluate access from the Tarman track to Citrus Fair Drive to facilitate walkability to the train station.
Yes.
We haven't looked at that. I don't know if this was put on to as a request to kind of revisit that study.
You know, I can
That's
suggest that.
It all comes rushing back.
We're doing the active transportation plan
I-
with CTA.
You just took the words right out. Because it's really an issue of that, there's really one of the things I think that you all, and now it's all coming back, they pointed out was that there's a real potential for a trail that really is kind of runs along the fence with the 101 for everyone from that part of town to be able to get to Citrus Fair, but it's without being on the street.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's a good idea.
So it's a
I'll
really
make sure
good
they
idea.
know about that one.
Yeah, there's a lot of potential there.
Wait,
Yeah.
Kevin, just for the record, but we're putting G2, you want to incorporate it into what item?
It's the active transportation plan.
Well, I don't know that it had anything to do with this agenda, other than I was going to alert SCTA of our wanting to put that as one of their identified
Yeah.
trails in the plan.
Okay, and can I remove it from our future agenda item list here, or do we want to put it? This list is kind of just a parking lot, it's a queue, so I'm just trying to keep it updated of where we want to place it. I can leave it on as well, just whatever you.
Madam Chair, it may be used as a standing update on the active transportation plan.
You also just took the words right out. Oh, maybe we want to have that as a standing item and an update, because wouldn't it also give access to the folks at 6 Acre and Cloverdale, because it's all kind of in a.
So Mike, you can put on standing items, update on active transportation plan.
Yeah. But probably especially the access to Citrus Fair from there isn't a good umbrella. Because it's not just Tarman, it would be
No, just pedestrian.
east. Yeah, pedestrian bicycle access from neighborhoods southeast of Cloverdale Boulevard, south of Citrus Fair. That's not short. So there's gonna be a song about that. Okay, but that's probably a good idea, and then we can, any major updates we can.
Yeah, no, that's good place to do it.
Okay, great. Oh, so countywide flood master plan, I imagine there is an update on that.
David.
So I'll just real briefly, there's a workshop planned on Monday, January 8th. We will plan to have staff in attendance. Unfortunate conflicts with our senior staff. They have these regional meetings at 8:30 on a Monday morning, but right now they're in the information gathering phase, and they've been coordinating with our city engineer on just data requests and information requests. And I think it's in preparation for this workshop that they're going to have in January. And at that time, I think we'll have more information really to share about the program, the process, and where Sonoma Water is leading up this planning effort.
Yeah, it would really be beneficial to have both Vanessa and Derek at that at the very least. So, yeah. Yeah, oh well, you'll figure it out. But it's actually good news, so,
We want to leave that one on.
let's leave it on, yeah. Or can it be on standing items?
Yeah, we can move it just because we prefer to have nothing on the future agenda items other than new
Yeah,
items.
let's do standing
forward.
items up there.
Okay.
Let's see. We did our healthy community, right?
Yeah.
Can we go ahead and leave it on future? I know he's saying we don't want to leave it on future, we want.
Well, I think we probably want to move it up, and I'll inform Jay that what was discussed here about
Okay,
the survey results, and then should get her in here
yep,
to give us that.
give us the drill down on that, so that can be
That'd be a new business item, or do you want it to stay on standing?
well, it's gonna be
Either
here
way.
until you schedule or so. But whichever comes
I
first.
mean, if Jay's ready, we can probably put it on new business, otherwise standing.
that sound good? Okay, and then economic development plan?
Yeah, it says from council 10-11. I gotta go back and see what the request was there.
Do you remember, David?
Economic
I think this came from you, Madam Chair.
I'm thinking, it sounds familiar. It sounds like something I probably would have said.
Tax referendums, sales tax and fossil tax, we looking at it that way? What was the title?
revenue, it's called the economic development plan.
Yeah, go ahead.
In the context of the discussion about the community center and how, that project could address or serve to address some of our economic development goals. And I think
Yeah.
this is probably something we need to bring forward. It is a standing city goal for our budget. And because I think what was underlying your comment, Chair, if I understand, was the need to enhance our revenue so that we can pay for some of the amenities and infrastructure upgrades that the community is requesting of the council to provide. So it's
addressing the structural deficit.
Right.
Yeah.
So what are our not so much our goal, but what initiatives do we want to engage in to help enhance our revenue?
Yeah, and actually Larry Cosmont's office, I got his card from the Cal Cities conference where I ran into him in his office again, and they said they would come up and do a free consultation, whether we wanted to talk about PERS issues or talking about revenue enhancements. They said that they would be willing to come up here and take a look at what we've got. So I will get that information to you right away. That's probably why I was trying to make a mental note of it. We gotta do a better job. When I don't remember what these things are about, and they were my request, we gotta name these a little better, but thanks for having a good memory as usual, David.
So with that item, do we want to just leave it where it is for now?
I think leave it where it is for now, because we're gonna have to do more work on that. Many of those things are interrelated.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, anything for good of the order? If not, we will adjourn to our next regular meeting of the Planning and Sustainability Subcommittee meeting scheduled for December 19th. Thank you to staff for all.
Thank you. We got a lot of work to do, so we gotta go get the work going.